You know, when the words hack and slash come into video games, most people think of iconic games like Ninja Gaiden, God of War, or Bayonetta. Heck, even an underrated game like Heavenly Sword. Then there is the stylish Gothic action franchise that is Devil May Cry. You may be surprised, but I've never played any of the Devil May Cry games, which is funny because I'm a huge fan of the Bayonetta franchise. Very ironic, I haven't played these games since Hideki Kamiya made the first Devil May Cry game. He also made Resident Evil 2, so he'll always get a thumbs up from me. As some of you may know, Devil May Cry was one of the games that was birthed from a scrapped concept of Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 really birthed two iconic games, but only one of them would become a full franchise and the other would be an underrated masterpiece in survival horror. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about my experience with the first Devil May Cry game as a newcomer to the series. So let's begin. Devil May Cry 1's gameplay is your typical hack and slash. It came out in 2001, so it's not super fast like Bayonetta or any of the later DMC games, but for what the combat is in DMC 1, I absolutely love it. Every move you perform or every combo you execute feels powerful, it feels rewarded. So let's get on to these different combos. Now, obviously, later games or other hack and slashes sometimes reward spamming a button, which can be really fun to do, but DMC 1 wants you to learn the combos. You're more than welcome to spam the button, but you're just going to perform the same 3-hit combo over and over again, and eventually you're probably going to get bored and wonder what other things can Dante do. But really taking the time in DMC 1 to learn the different combos makes it that much more fun. At the start of my playthrough, I would just spam the same one and it got boring, so I really took the time to look in the different combos and see what I could execute, and by the end of the game, I felt so rewarded with learning all these different moves and how I can defeat these different enemies in a variety of ways. So how are you going to take out these enemies? Well, Dante comes with his own tools and arsenal, whether it's stuff that he finds throughout the story or things you just find luckily by chance. From the iconic sword in most of the DMC 1 posters, Alistair, the way he gets this sword, by the way, is so cool. It impales him and he just slides through it like it's nothing. Really cool. His iconic handguns, Ebony and Ivory. You're probably going to be using these handguns and the Alistair sword for most of the games. These deal with probably nearly all the enemies. Unless you've got hard hitting ones, then you may need to switch to something else. Then you get the very hard hitting weapons like the shotgun, grenade launcher, and Ifrit, which are flame gauntlets that enhance Dante's melee in combat. A lot slower movement than Alistair the sword, but they pack quite the punch. The shotgun is really good for dealing with the death scissor enemies. They can be really annoying, especially towards the start of the game, but once you've figured out a little strategy, the shotgun is the saving grace against them. And then the grenade launcher is really good against the blades enemies and also anything that has a hard shell or shield. Especially if you pump it with Devil Trigger, you can literally say goodbye to those shields and those enemies. Nightmare is a secret gun you can find in the game, and it launches a devastating laser ball that projects all over the walls. The only drawback with it is that it uses your Devil Trigger gauge, so you can blast a powerful attack, but then you won't be able to use Devil Trigger for a bit. The needle gun is only useful for the underwater sections, and Spada, even though it's a good weapon that deals a lot of damage, you won't be able to use your Devil Trigger, so you've got to pick your poison. So I keep mentioning Devil Trigger. So Devil Trigger is a special ability. Once a certain gauge fills up, and you can launch devastating attacks with abilities you can buy from the shop as well. They're very good, especially I really enjoyed Ifrit's Devil Trigger form. I found it very effective against Neo Angelo. Devil Trigger helped me a lot in this game. DMC 1 is known, and from now my personal experience, is quite a hard game, so Devil Trigger was the saving grace in a lot of my fights, so it's great. It will help you a lot, especially if it's it's your first time playing. The atmosphere as well in Devil May Cry 1 is amazing. It's your classic gothic spooky castle. I'm a sucker for anything gothic fantasy, and DMC 1 just fed me with all of this gothic architecture. I love it. I love the atmosphere. 10 out of 10 castle. Love it. I also adore the underworld. I love how it looks so fleshy and twisted as well. There are quite a few locations in the game, but definitely the castle and the underworld are like the best ones for me. So even though I've praised the atmosphere and the gameplay and the weapons, DMC 1 still has its flaws, and I understand that it is a title that came out in 2001, so don't jump at me in the comments, but this is just from someone who does play older games regularly. This is my little critiques on what I did have with the game. So for DMC 1, I'm not a huge fan on the fixed camera angles. I do understand that these were assets from an old RE4 build, so I can completely understand that, and you can clearly see it with the camera angles. Even the sounds, they had some haunting ground sounds in there, which was kind of cool, but the camera angle did not work for me in DMC 1. It could come across very clanky, and even with like the parkour kind of moments or the platforming moments, it could be really hard to measure up where you had to jump, and oh, you're thinking you're jumping in the right direction, but actually you're not. The closest thing I can compare DMC 1's camera angles to is Code Veronica and Haunting Ground, where it follows Dante, but it's still a fixed camera angle. I feel like that style of camera works really well in survival horror, but I don't think it works as well in a hack and slash title. Some of the bosses as well are not the best. If I was going to say Neo Angelo, all the Neo Angelo fights are my favorite. I forget what the bird boss is called. I'll put the name of it on the screen. I despise that boss. Now, it might be a skill issue, but I just feel like the camera angle didn't work well. And when you fight him on the boat, it's so clunky. You can't even see sometimes like who you're aiming at or how you're going to get up there to fight him. It's kind of a mess. Even the final fights between Mundus, because he has two phases. I've never been huge on an on-rail sequence, so I didn't like the first phase. And the second phase I was stuck on for quite a lot of time, but I know that's more of a skill issue. But when I did defeat him, I just felt amazing. Like I do in most of my videos, I'm going to do a quick story recap. Luckily, DMC 1's story is a very simple story to follow, so let's begin. At the start of the game, we're introduced to Dante, a devil hunter, who is having a chilling night in the office before he's attacked by the mysterious babe that is Trish. After an iconic, stylish fight intro, Trish reveals it was all a test, asking Dante to help her defeat the evil emperor Mundus. Dante agrees to help because A. Mundus murdered his mother and his brother Virgil, and B. because Trish looks very similar to Dante's mother, so the pair journey off to start the beginning of DMC 1 at the island. Throughout the Devil May Cry story, Dante goes through many different areas of the castle and the castle grounds, getting key items for progression, defeating many minor enemies, and some of Mundus's personal minions such as Phantom and Griffin, with of course Trish keeping an eye on Dante's strength and progress in the background. It's also revealed in the last fight to have with Neo Angelo that it was Virgil the entire time being possessed and corrupted by Mundus. When Dante next meets Trish, she reveals her betrayal, but Dante chooses to save her. After pleading for her to explain her side of the story, Dante reveals that even though she may look like his mother, she'll never have the fire his mother ever had. Dante then confronts the statue version of Mundus, where Mundus shows that he has captured Trish, saying that if he does anything to him, he will kill Trish. Mundus plans a surprise attack on Dante, but Trish frees herself, taking the hit instead, leaving her in a critical condition. And just like the classics, Dante fights Mundus in the final fight and defeats him, leaving the Spada sword and the amulet with Trish's body, as well as giving this timeless, iconic performance.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light.
I'm so sorry. I had to add it in there. It's infamous and classic for a reason. Dante tries to make his way off the island, but Mundus, in a desperation, tries one more time to defeat him once and for all. With the help of a revived Trish, because she never died, they both defeat Mundus and the pair escape the island, forming the iconic business Devil Never Cry. Overall, my experience with the game was nothing but phenomenal. I completely understand why this is a classic. I really enjoyed the game. I loved Dante, I loved Trish, I loved the Virgil fights, and I loved the Gothic architecture. And yes, even though I did have issues with some of the bosses and the camera angles, I can completely understand why Devil May Cry is a classic. And I'm so glad I got to share my experience, my first time experience with the game. So throughout the future, whenever I get the chance to play them, I'll be hopefully making videos on each of my DMC experiences. So yes, I will be playing the infamous DMC 2, but I need to play it for myself to get my own experience and opinions of the game and not just rely on what other people say. Hello, thank you so much for watching. I'm so sorry this video took a little bit longer to come out. I got sick and I delayed it for a week, but it's finally here. If you would like to see more from me, please consider subscribing, and here are some video recommendations on other projects I've worked on. So hopefully I'll be seeing you in the next one. Goodbye for now and Happy New Year.